Mr. Mo, Mr. Mo.
That's what That's what you want to be called.
You can call me No Mo. Is this good? Is that the right spot?
Put it right there. Right in front of your mouth. There you go.
So, I married into an Italian family, and that was kind of an interesting experience for me. Because I didn't know any Italians when I was growing up. And
Put your mouth next to the microphone.
right next to the mic. I didn't know any Italians when I was a kid. I didn't know Italians in my neighborhood. But I married into an Italian family, and that was an interesting experience. And I won't talk about every aspect of it. Like I won't talk about how I had to ask for her hand in marriage to her father, like, and he was a little bit demented at the time. She was 4'8", I was 6 feet tall, and he said, "You're big, you're little. This can affect the union." You had to read between the lines with this guy. But she was from the most southern part of Italy called Calabria. Does anybody know where that is? Calabria. That's like the Buddha. It's right before you get to Sicily is Calabria. So down in Calabria, you've heard of the Sicilian mafia, right? The Calabrian mafia is like 10 times worse. I mean, the Calabrian mafia makes the Sicilian mafia look like choir boys. So it's called the 'ndrangheta. I can't really pronounce it. I went down to Sicily. I went down to Calabria. I met some of the relatives, and they just told me not to say that word. They just don't even say that word. But I used to joke. I used to joke around with Dee Dee. Like I said, she was very short, but she could blow a gasket at times. You know, Italians are very passionate people. So I used to say, "Look, I'll wash the dishes, but don't call your cousin Guido. Like whatever you do, don't call Guido." So. She and her cousin Tony came up with a little plan to fuck with me, and I had never met him before. He showed up to the house, and he says, "Hey, how you doing? My name's Tony, but my friends like to call me Guido." And he kind of talks like this, you know what I'm saying? He had some gold chains. He was kind of a big guy. He put his arm around me. He said, "You know, I'm in the insurance business." He says, "Cuz, I would hate if something happened to this guy. I love this guy." Put his arm around me. He says, "You know, let's take a policy out on him. If things don't work out, you can collect." He scared the shit out of me. So some friends were staying with me, some hippie friends, and they were eating this peanut butter and oatmeal concoction that was kind of disgusting. So I thought this guy, you know, maybe he's a criminal, but he's probably like a Republican criminal. So I was a little nervous about him meeting my friends eating this oatmeal peanut butter thing. But he was very nice about it. He says, "Oh no," he says, "I love peanut butter." He says, "Well, when I was a kid, we used to eat these fluffernutter sandwiches all the time." So I guess you guys never heard of fluffernutter sandwiches.
Yeah, fluffernutter sandwiches!
He's messing with me. So anyway, I was working at the time for this professor at University of Arizona, and I used to tell him about my cousin Guido. And you know, at one point he just got very pissed off at me, and he said, "Morris, you don't have a cousin Guido, okay? Just shut up about Guido." So I said, okay, you want to play it that way? So he was kind of an intense person. His father was a welder. He didn't like to be bothered while he was working, but he was polite to family members. So I said to Tony, why don't we pay a visit to the good professor? So he says, oh, cuz, I think that would be fun. So we go up to his office and, we shook hands. Any particular reason for coming to town? He says, I like to golf. So they chit-chat for a little bit, and Tony, he looks around and he says, you have a pretty good setup over here. You got books on the wall, you have a window, you got a room with a view. He said, he gets right into the professor's face. He says, so, when are you giving my cousin a raise? And then the professor, he was dumbfounded. He says, the the golfing is great this time of the year. So, 30 years later, he never forgot that. That was one of those things. But anyway, that's my little voyage into Italian family land.